everyone. Welcome back to At the Coffee Table Podcast. I am Jason Klink with my co-host Robert Bob Kahn.
All right.
And this is episode 86 of At the Coffee Table Podcast. As always, we appreciate your viewing of the podcast. Please do what you can to like, comment, and share because that's the only way this podcast audience is going to grow. Because we all have to play into the social media algorithms. Bob, how are you?
I'm good. It's been a good week. I was a bachelor for a week. That was always interesting.
Oh,
I,
wild parties, right?
I forgot how to be a bachelor.
I
36
can't
years of
survive as a
marriage. I'll do
bachelor.
that to you.
I don't know how to survive as a bachelor.
Yeah. Let's put it this way. I didn't burn the house down. I still remember how to cook. So it
There you
wasn't bad. It wasn't too
go. Sitting around talking to myself is never a good thing.
Only it's not bad unless you start answering yourself.
Answering yourself, and then it's a problem. Yep, absolutely. So here on episode 86, we wanted to jump off with talking about sustaining life in a real estate business. And, Bob and I connected through the real estate business. Bob has decades of experience in real estate compared to my 6 years of experience. But there is a real comparison to running and cultivating and sustaining a true real estate business as well as a regular business. It can be any business. And,
True.
I got into real estate because my desire was to learn something new. And I was always interested in the business. And I had a friend that was a broker in the business. So, I went to see him and I said, hey, Rich, I need to learn something other than public safety. And he goes, all right, well, go take the course, come back and talk to me. And I was off and running from there. How did you get into the business?
Well, let me see. That was in the 1800s, wasn't it? Yeah. We had moved to New Jersey, and I was a videotape distributor of movies of all kinds. And I was doing pretty well. It was nice. It was a nice, comfortable business, 5 days a week, had movies to watch. And then my main distributor was MGM, and they just said, we don't need you. So they opened my business. So my wife and I have been talking. When I lived in LA, all my friends were realtors, and I was either afraid to take the chance or whatever the reason. I didn't. But while I was here, and she goes, give it a shot. So I went. I took the course. I got my license in February of '87. That's 1987, not 1887. I didn't even know if they had licenses back then. And went to work. And the first year was all about learning. I think I did $10,000 total in commissions. And the second year, it exploded for me. And it was then off to the races after that. And 35 years later, I retired last June. I'd had enough. Got it done. And the one thing I found, and I like the title, is it is surviving, because for all those people you read about that are driving the Mercedes and, traveling the world and showing all their jewelry and everything, that's about 0.5% of the total.
Yeah.
Anybody that survived more than a year, they say that most people quit in 5 years, 75%. Then I honor them. I'm still surprised I lasted as long as I did. It's a business that for me, it still intrigues me. I love working with people. I love helping people.
Yep.
It was the first business I ever worked in all my years. Got harder, not easier.
Mm.
You had to constantly learn, and which is fine. It's
Yep.
fine.
Yep.
But the regulations here in New Jersey, it's like we're under the Banking and Real Estate Commission, and they don't put regulations on themselves. They put them on the real estate agents.
We're under Department of State, New York, so it's even worse.
Well, you're direct. We have some go-between, and the
Yep.
Real Estate Commission here is so overwhelmed that the basic rules, simple things like billboards. I don't know if you have people doing billboards in Syracuse.
Oh, yeah.
But we have these giant billboards with no company name, just the agent's name.
Hmm.
And I don't know. I think throughout the United States and the ethics, it says that the company's logo or name has to be larger or more visible, more prevalent than the agent's name.
Yep.
Somebody's they don't have enough people in the real estate commission in the investigation department, so it's the Wild West all over again around here.
It's funny you say that because I've heard I just heard that term again. I was catching up with my original team leader, my friend, my broker, original broker, and we were talking about the current state of or the last 3 years in real estate, and he said the same exact thing. It's the wild, wild west out there, and it comes down to there was so much opportunity, there was so much possibilities in real estate in the last 3 years that it took off like a rocket ship, and the rocket ship never came down. So then
Yeah,
it became majority of the agents were doing large amounts of business, and now that everything's all digital and virtual, because every real estate brokerage had to learn to do some type of virtual,
absolutely.
due to the pandemic.
And the dinosaurs
um,
eat.
yeah, well, it's that, and the agents are kind of lone rangers out there. They may be working underneath a brokerage, but essentially they're just working for themselves and doing their own thing.
It's true. I mean, back when I started, you had to go to work. There were no cell phones.
Right.
You had, I think the highlight of tech was a fax machine and a pager, and there were no computers. So the MLS was a book, eight, 5 by 8, kind of loose leaf paper book, a binder.
Yep.
And you had to go to work in order to work because you weren't going to sit and make calls from your home because it wasn't the same now.
Yeah.
You go 2 miles outside, you'll call long distance.
Yeah.
And today, and also it gave greater control of the to the broker for how people did their business.
Hmm.
Now in New Jersey, you got to take all this ethics training and everything else. But you know what? Since there's nobody to go, you can't do that. People, like you said, it's the Wild West. I mean, I've seen more violations. There's companies that are making so much money, they don't care if there's violations. They'll gladly pay that $10,000 or $15,000 fine, and they get busted over and over again. There's no teeth in the law here, so it is survival. And
Hmm.
what's happening is these large groups and teams are swallowing up the business. So the individual agents having a tough time competing unless they don't need to be big. They don't need to do 150 million a year,
Right.
but it is a survival. It's sad that you spend all that time and 75% of the people who get their license today in 5 years, they'll be out of the business. It's probably even less now because there's more people trying to take a bite out of a small part of the apple because
Yeah.
the big teams are doing so much marketing and advertising that if they don't know who you are, they're not going to answer the phone or they're not going to answer a mail or any kind of ad online. Um, so it is just surviving. It is
Yeah.
surviving, and if you have a family, it's tough. It's very hard. I don't know anybody other than very young people, anywhere in the 25 to 35 range, who aren't married, who don't have kids.
Hmm.
And you can't make $10,000-$20,000 a year anymore and survive.
No.
So it's surprising. And I think I told you this. Tom Ferry, my
Yep.
mind blank, one of the premier trainers in the country. Last year, around May of last year, said that 40% of the 1.5 million licenses aren't making a dime. That's over
Wow.
600,000 people.
Wow.
So if you're making money out there in real estate land, I applaud you. I really do. Um,
I think it comes down to, though, are you getting the support system? Are you getting the training? Are you getting set up by success by your brokerage, by your broker? I think back like in 2017 when I started, I've said this 100 million times. I knew nothing about business,
right.
knew nothing about real estate. I get into the real estate business and I have to learn about marketing. I have to learn about business, finances, I have to keep track of what's coming in and what's going out. Oh, how about that? Social media. And I recognized in 2017 how important social media was going to be in real estate. Even in 2017, there was agents and brokers that refused to embrace social media because they were very steadfast in the traditional marketing activities of real estate, cold calling, door knocking, door hangers, that kind of stuff.
They're still teaching that stuff.
Oh, for sure. Yep.
I mean, it blows my mind. If you get a call, and let's say it's I don't know, 7 o'clock at night. You ever get any spam calls?
All day long.
You answer the phone.
No, never once.
You know, wha- and which is kind of weird because now they have the ability to buy numbers in the local area. And if you're an active real estate agent, you're sending out marketing of any kind.
Yep.
Oh, you if it's in that, if a phone number you recognize, in other words, the first 3 digits besides the area code, it's like you want to answer it, but then you answer and go, "Is so and so there?" And
Yeah.
it's somebody trying to sell you something.
Yep. Right off the bat. And what's interesting too is like when I started we were heavy into cold calling. So we get the team would get a new listing, and we all sit down for a calling night, and we'd go at 6 o'clock in the evening. We'd sit down, and we're going to make a calls around the and do some farming on the phone. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And you got a script, but it was all, do you know anybody who wants to buy a house? Blah 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 blah. And I'm like, this is dumb. Nobody's going to listen to this. And you might get one maybe out of 300 phone calls that we made. So then I started to dive into it further, and I found Ricky Carruth. And Ricky Carruth's approach, because he built his entire multi-million-dollar real estate business off of cold calling before he knew anything about social media. And he would go in and first he'd distract him by like talking about the weather. And then it was, listen, I want to take up too much of your time, but hey, I just sold or listed a condo in your building, and I was just calling around to see if I could do anything for you, anybody else, And I
Right.
remember him doing one video where he was doing live calls, and somebody said, I don't want to sell my condo. And he goes, good, I don't want you to. I just wanted to know if you knew of anyone. And I was like, that's almost a better way of doing it, of just being upfront, saying, listen, what can I do for you if there's anything at all?
Yeah. I mean, I still, back in 1987, my entire office took what was called sweat hogs with a man named Floyd Wickman. You know who he is.
Yep.
But he was the foremost trainer, one of 3 top trainers back then.
Yep.
And I still remember the initial cold calling script. Hi, Mr. Klink. Play along here for a second. Say yes.
Yes. Go ahead.
Listen, the reason I'm calling, I was wondering if you thought about selling your house now or in the near future. Have you?
No.
Oh, see, the reason I'm calling is I have John and Mary Smith. They work over at the Ford plant, and they just got a big promotion, and they got a lot of money for down payment, and they're looking for a house in your neighborhood. Who do you know that's thinking of selling their house?
No one.
And you sure you not consider well, well, that was the script, and that
Yep.
I learned that in 1987, so it was ingrained.
Yeah.
But what they do, right? If you could cold call, in a lot of states you can't, like in New York.
Yeah. Because there are fictitious states of
It's
emergency.
it's a combination of the words you say.
Yep.
Obviously, you
Yep.
have to draw them in, and
Yep.
how you say them.
Right.
But the biggest thing is, if you're thinking from the angle of money, they know it.
Yep.
Jersey, they call it commission breath. And you don't you honestly have to want to bring value to them.
Yes.
They have a problem.
Yep.
Chances of them selling it themselves are slim. So that's a big problem right
Right.
there. You know, and it amazes me how many people are still coming at it from, I got the best deal for you. I'm the number one realtor. Look at me. Aren't I pretty? Isn't this a great video? Nobody gives a shit.
No. No.
Can I say shit on
It
here?
goes back to the 3 things. They're gonna work with you if they like, know, and trust you, period, end of story.
Period. Yeah,
They don't wanna hear your buy or sell, buy or sell, buy or sell. Nobody wants to hear that.
well,
I wouldn't wanna hear that.
yeah, funny. Real estate is the strangest kind of sales because, like you said before, we have to find the lead, we have to cultivate the lead, we have to market to find the lead, we have to track the lead, track the deal. Where if you're selling, say, life insurance, excuse me, let's say you're selling a product, a refrigerator. You're just selling a refrigerator. All you got to do is know
Yep,
about the refrigerator.
yep, yep.
So it keeps you on your toes. But people today probably know 10 people have a real estate license.
Yeah,
And
easy.
I found out the hard way that family doesn't necessarily mean they're going to work with you.
No,
You may not necessarily want to work with your family because if they perceive that you're screwing up the deal, what happens then? They can fire you, but how's that going to be good for your relationship?
oh, yeah, for sure.
I think one of the best things that ever happened is my wife's aunt and uncle. They were selling their business and selling a house, and when I said, because I was doing commercial real estate at the time, I said, "Well, let's get together." No, we don't do business with family. Obviously, I was a little ticked at the time, but
Yep,
thank you, because when things get tough and you got to dig in with them and they're pissed at you because
yep.
you said,
You
we
said,
all
yep.
know, if they love what they have, it's because they bought it.
Yes.
But if they don't like it, you sold it to them.
That's
So,
why I have never upsold a home ever once. I've never pushed a transaction just to complete the transaction. I've even looked at buyer clients of mine and looked at them. Told them this is not the house for you. Let's keep looking.
oh yeah,
I listened to a more senior real estate agent a few years ago at a different brokerage I was at, and he was talking to a more newer junior agent, right? And I'm walking through and I hear him tell him, "It's your job to sell that home if they want it or not." And I looked and I go, "Are you for real?" Well, it's the only way we're gonna make our transaction goals. No, no, it's not. That is not the way people are gonna smell that a mile away. No.
people don't care
And it's
what
the
you
same thing
know.
when
Till
it comes
you know
to
that you-
like I remember like contracts, buyer agency contracts and listing contracts. I have never pushed that on one client ever once. I've reminded them that they had it in place a couple of times, but I've never pushed that on somebody.
Well, what's funny about real estate, and I guess in all sales, is the loyalty factor is solely based on who you are and how you are
Yeah.
and who you're being.
Yep.
If they see you as a friend, they see you as someone who really cares about what they're trying to accomplish and not looking for the dollars, they're going to stick with you. You don't need a piece of paper
Yeah.
because just as easily they can say, take your piece of paper and put it
Yep.
where the sun doesn't shine.
Yeah.
Zig Ziglar was very smart. He goes, you help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want.
Yep.
And I haven't forgotten that. And I probably could have made a lot more money if I was like that broker.
Yeah.
I just wasn't. I'm not built that way. I've actually done deals where I did not get paid from start to finish. Did everything else, but something happened at the closing, and I had to make a decision. Do I want to go? Oh no, or let it happen for the benefit of both buyer and seller?
Yeah.
But it paid off. I think I told you a story. I had one buyer who we were going house to house to house to house to house to house. We finally found his house. Fell in love with it. It was a bank-owned property, and we come out of it, and I go, well, why don't we go back? This is the days of the office. Why don't we go back to the office? We'll write up the papers. And he goes, I was talking to my mother. That's not a good way to start a conversation.
Yep.
And he said, my mother has a friend who's a realtor, and she said that I ought to talk to her, and she worked in another town. Inside of like 10 seconds, I had to register this. How badly do I need this money? Do I want this money, or do I want the client to be happy? Thank God I chose the client to be happy. I said,
Yeah.
you know what? I said, You got to do what you got to do for you. I'm only care about you getting a house. If you get a house through her, great. If you
Yep.
get a house through me, great.
Yep.
Here to serve you.
Yep.
And I was shocked they said it. He was shocked they said it, but he went out with that other agent, called me the next day, goes, let's write up the contract. And I'll tell you, there's no other way to do it. Client first. I
Yep.
didn't even know there was such a thing when I was doing it. And
Yep.
then I read a book called Clients First.
Yep.
And it's remarkable how your business changes when you stop worrying and caring about the money.
Oh yeah.
You
Yeah, for
know,
100%. If you're not focused on how much money I'm making and you're more focused on connecting with people, connecting with the right people, bringing them value,
right?
listening to them, cultivating the relationship, it comes back. It comes back. I tell my buyers all the time, listen, don't I've been asked uh, many times of, how are you getting paid? And don't worry about how I'm getting paid. I get mine in the end. The seller pays me in the end. I'll get mine in the end.
Yeah,
Um,
true.
it's just, and you got conscientious people, clients that I know we've looked at 10 houses. I'm sorry for wasting your time, which I've always said to them, listen, if I'm showing you a house right now is because I schedule this time to show houses right now. You're not wasting my time.
This is what
So
I do.
yeah, this is what we
Yeah.
do.
I think the folks that last in this business, obviously they're making money,
Yep.
but realize the changes that have happened, that people don't like to be sold. They want to buy,
All right.
lead them into buying.
Yep.
Now, all we could never, there's no way we can convince somebody who doesn't want to buy a house to buy a house
Right.
because you're not going to put a gun to their head or anything.
Right.
So the best that you can do is be a decision, help them make a decision. Because let's say you showed them three houses and they like two of them. Oh, I'm not sure about this. And so your job is to point out both,
Yes.
make a decision for them.
Yep.
And if they ask you, which has happened many times, well, what would you do? I'm not going to answer that question.
No, it's not our
That's not
investment. It's
my
their
job.
investment.
I can't answer that question for you.
Yep.
That's like asking me if I was in combat and a grenade came in, would I dive on it to save my friends? I don't know. So I don't know the answer for you.
Yeah. No, that's 100% right. And especially for the homeowners that are selling their home, it can, there's a very, I talked about this yesterday in a video, there's an emotional quotient. There's an emotional component to selling especially when you're selling your home, especially if you've been in it for like 25 or 30 years. And
Totally.
there's an emotional component even into buying a home, because a lot of people want to be in that home. If it's their forever home, they want to be there for 25 or 30
Right,
years.
right.
So if we're not considering that emotional component in, commercial real estate's different. It's just business. You're making a business transaction, period, end of story.
Right.
Sometimes you have to remind, we as agents have to remind the residential clients that you really are making a business decision. It's the biggest asset you're ever going to own. It's adding or subtracting from your financial portfolio. So you have to kind of think of it that way. But we also have to be very mindful of that emotional component of either side.
Oh, I mean, this is a business where empathy is extremely important.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've said to the people, hang on a second. You have pictures? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You have memories? Yeah. So isn't home, your life here, everything that you've done here, portable? We're talking about taking your life and your memories and moving it to another building that has a roof over it that you'll love as much as you love this house. Or maybe you
Yep.
don't love that house, but it's you got to the job of the agent, and one of the jobs is managing their expectations.
Yes.
I think that with buyers, you got to do it during a buyer consultation before you take them out, if
Yep.
you can. And with sellers, that's really the purpose of the listening appointment. You
Yep.
can call it a sales appointment, you can call it a listing appointment, but you're a consultant
Yes.
and
100%.
they buy you, then they'll list with you. And if you explain to them that I'm not here to take your listing unless you desire me to take it, I'm here to help you make a decision that's in your best interest.
Yeah.
And as a realtor, even though it's in the code of ethics, it should be natural for you to make sure that everything you do for your client is in their best interest,
Interest.
not
Yep.
your pocket.
Yep.
And
100%.
I look around at these young kids today who are getting their licenses, and I joke about everything in New Jersey that's a law is a suggestion. Speed limits, stop signs, yield signs, billboards. I mean, the code of ethics was designed to protect the public from us and us from each other.
Yeah.
And the shape. So going back to the Wild West concept.
Yep. Yep.
Buyers and sellers, especially the sellers today, are precious because there's not a lot of them in
Not a lot. Yep.
years
Yep.
gone by.
Yep.
And if you're fortunate enough to have a listing, you should capitalize on the listing once you've done your job. It's not wrong to say, hey, are you happy with the service I'm giving you? Who do you know? I mean, that's fine. That's who do you know that I can help? But you got to mean it.
Yeah.
You can't be going, who do you know that I can help and in the back of your head make money from?
Yep.
The obvious is you're going to make money if you help somebody. So
Yeah.
shut up about the money,
Yeah.
And it seems to me, and hasn't been that long, it's only been 2 months, that a lot of the younger agents are shortcutting. They're meeting buyers at houses without consulting with them. Oh, buyers, there's so many buyers. What do I care? No, they're not buyers, they're humans. And everything you do, everything we do has an effect on their life, whether you help them or not.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
my goal at the end of every deal, every sale, was that no matter who I was representing, they would say, do you have any other clients besides us? And I would just smile. I go, yeah, why? Because it's like you gave us such you were there for us 100 steps away. I said, that's what I do. That's how
Yep.
I run my business.
Yep.
And it's such a great feeling. Yeah,
Yeah.
the closing's fine. It's great. You're getting paid, but you're getting paid regardless. You might
Yep.
as well have made it a nice journey. I tell my clients, listen, what I strive to do for my clients is make it as easy and stressless as possible. I'll take the hard stuff. You just breathe easy, have a cup of coffee.
Right.
If I ask you to do something, all you got to do is do it. If I ask you for a piece of paper, it's because somebody else asked me for a piece of paper.
Yep.
But I want you to know that when we're at the closing, I want you to wonder if I have any other clients, number one. And number two, I want you to tell the world how stressless it was.
Yep.
And most of the time it worked.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are those clients.
just being of service. That's what it comes down to. Being of service.
No finer thing to do as a human.
Yep.
So,
Absolutely. I think we just brought that around full circle.
oh,
Brought
yeah.
that around for a circle. So with that, feel free to reach out to either one of us if you want any advice on the real estate business, if you want any advice on business in general, even if it's just client relationships. You can find us both on Instagram, which is scrolling on the bottom here. Bob, any parting thoughts or words of wisdom?
Just keep in mind that you're dealing with humans and emotions. And even though they say that buying is an emotional thing and selling is a business transaction, it's emotions, it's humans.
Yep.
Treat them with the respect. Treat them as if they were your parents.
Yes.
If you can.
Yep. 100%.
You can.
It's one of those things you need to sharpen your craft. You need to sharpen your craft as a business owner, as a real estate agent, whatever it might be. So you learn about the business, and then you keep learning and you keep learning and you keep fostering relationships and growing relationships with, anybody that you might be working with. Because, business, real estate business, it's all about relationships. And, at the end of the day. So,
and what's nice is they always taught us the value of an individual client. Well, the only way you're going to get extra value is giving them extra value.
yep.
So that they may never buy or sell with you again, but they know people.
Yep. 100%.
Makes life a little easier.
For sure. All right, with that, we will end this episode for today. And, like I said, please like, comment, and share because that's the only way we're going to grow this podcast audience. And we'd be happy to answer any questions. So drop those comments in there. And Bob will part with your famous ending.
As always, be nice, stay safe, and of course, laugh a lot.
Outstanding. Until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and have a great day.